Business Growth Talks podcast is created and hosted by Mark Hayward. In this show, we talk about how to grow a business in the growth stage. The growth stage is often marked by rapid developments, increased revenue, and an escalating customer base. In each episode, we talk to entrepreneurs and business owners who have grown businesses, and we cover topics like scaling processes, market expansion, financial management, human resource and talent development, and customer retention. If you are looking for actionable advice, tips, and techniques on how to grow, run and build your business, this is the podcast for you.
Today we have Solomon Thimothy, who is a marketing-obsessed entrepreneur with a proven track record in building successful organizations. Solomon is the co-founder of Clickx, which is a marketing intelligence platform for brands to plan, execute, and measure online campaigns. Solomon is also the CEO of OneIMS, which is an online marketing agency which helps his clients generate quality leads. Solomon has his own framework called 10X framework with the idea to double everything like clients, revenue, leads, and sales. Solomon is based in Florida. So before we start, if you're enjoying this content, please do subscribe to any podcast platform. If you are on YouTube, then please do give it a subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm and helps with the show. And equally, you can go to the website, which is www.businessgrowthtalks.com. Hello, Solomon. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Mark.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. It's going to be so much fun that we're going to go into primarily your two businesses, Clickx and OneIMS. But I know you do other things as well, so we might touch on that as well. But with all of the shows, the first question I ask is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
Business mindset is basically how you run your day, right? Every single thing that comes into your day, how you handle it. And I like to think that entrepreneurs are firefighters. We are as good as firefighting can get. I usually have little plastic firefighting things here to put out the fires. The reason I say that is if you're going to let the day run you, then you're defeated. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You got to handle anything that comes your way and handle it positively. It was Tony Robbins says either it happened to you or it happened for you. And then you learn from it and then you overcome whatever that challenge is and move on. You know what I'm saying? No business is not dealing with fires. I've coached so many business owners and we do marketing campaigns and so on. Every day they're dealing with different kinds of fires. It's never the same thing, but it's just how you overcome that is how you become a better entrepreneur.
It's interesting because it sounds like being a firefighter that you're reacting to the fire, where a lot of my thought processes and people I've had on my show is always trying to be proactive and trying to resolve issues before they become major issues. Do you feel as being a firefighter that you're responding or are you proactively doing something?
Right. I think there's two sides to that, right? So one is if you're firing all cylinders as a business, you're going into new markets, you're adding new capabilities, you have so much confidence that you can do it, you just don't know where the fire might come from. Because again, you're always expanding. And I know you touched on 10X, right? Just anytime you're in expansion mode, there's always going to be fires. There's always going to be something that you didn't think about. That didn't cross our team's mind, or our project management tool didn't have that issue saved. And so that's what I mean by it. And I think we obviously want to be in the proactive world as much as we can. But if you're running an event, you're running a show, you're running this, you're running a trade show, whatever it is for your business, there's always going to be something. Oh, we forgot the banners. Oh, we forgot this. We forgot the flyers. We forgot the book. We forgot the giveaway. You're like, okay, somebody going to go get a $100 gift card or an iPad or a laptop? Go. John, go. Right? Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get that because I was having an interview with a guest a few weeks ago, and he said it's always a new level for business owners. So you make your first 100,000. You've never made 100,000 before. So your problems are things you may not even have thought of. Right. You make your first million. You've never reached £1 million or $1 million before. So you don't know what it's like to have and that's 10 or 100 million. So you are absolutely right. There were the steps that you move forward. You're always going through new experiences and new things that you've not seen before.
Yeah, and you're just not going to be ever be prepared. So don't ever feel like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. Let me go back to my little happy business with no trouble. But then you're not in the growth zone. You're in the comfort zone. You agree? That's what you and I do not want to be, or anybody that's listening or watching for that matter.
Yeah. We've all got to be in growth zone. Absolutely. All right. Tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
Yeah, my upbringing, my parents are from India, so they've always put a lot of emphasis on education. So I couldn't quit my school and start a business. I had to graduate college. But other than that, they gave me a lot of freedom as to what I should be doing with my life. They really didn't dictate anything, which I'm extremely grateful of. Because if, like I said, I would be dressed up as a doctor for Halloween because that's what people think, right? A doctor, a lawyer, something like that. 18 years of school and a lot of debt, and you come out and you probably hate your job or never get to see your family. And I've chosen a different field, rather, like something like you said, super unknown. Nobody's ever done it, or nobody wants to go into it because of all the risk, and failure is so common. Why would we want to do that? Luckily, my parents are like, do whatever you want to do, as long as you're happy. And so that allowed me to not ever have this worry of, am I living up to do I need to make $1 million? But there was no pressure. In fact, they gave me money. They gave me the seed money to go and start a business, knowing that I might not ever pay back. So I think that really helped me a ton. It just gave me so much confidence that, like, oh, look, like my parents are supporting me. What could possibly go wrong? And so I was very optimistic that everything is going to work. And I started our business actually in the middle of the Great Recession, 2007, 2008. Like, we're a budding company. And everywhere else, people are like, oh, you're not going to get clients. People are losing jobs. And no, we grew in the pandemic. So I think if you're really super optimistic about what you're doing and you are adding value in the marketplace, it doesn't matter what goes on in the world. So I just think that just took me to another level mentally. So I've always been very positive, right? Even if there's fire, like we talk about, like, what can we do in this? Like, how do we overcome this and learn? And so we can move on to the next level.
Absolutely. And I describe myself as a pragmatic optimist. So I like to keep an optimistic outlook on life, but I'm pragmatic that I'm not delusional that everything's going to be happy and lovely. You have to realize that there are hurdles, there are things that are there to block you or slow you down at least. I love that optimism, though. I love that idea of having a good outlook on the world. And if you grew in 07, 08, I was working for corporate at that time, and it was a very difficult time in
Right.
corporate world. A lot of people were laid off and a lot of lives were changed. How did you approach that first or second year going through the financial crisis? Did you just see that as a marketing business, you were there to be able to provide value even when people are making redundancies and cutbacks?
Yeah. That's a story in itself. That's another episode, but I'll share really quickly. So basically, this is a time when I'm barely 20 years old, right? 20, 21, something like that. In about the first couple of months, I was working from our home, the spare bedroom. We buy, or we don't buy, but we lease out a space, like a 3-year lease in this time frame. And then we hired employees on top of that. Now I have at least employees, and it's 2006. And then it was going into 2007. So all we really did, and we made our first million from 50-mile radius of our physical location. Like people think, do I have to go to other states? No, there's customers 3 and 5 mile radius of where you are right now that desperately needs what you're trying to sell or do. And they need your help. So we literally we didn't have any money for ads, networking events, and just like connection. Obviously, relationships is the key. It's the secret. And we just did a really good job for what we did for our clients. And literally, they told their friends, and one by one, we just started to get clients. Like I said, there's no doubt that we were passionate about what we did, which is marketing and lead generation and customer acquisition, things like that. And it just, when you help one business owner, it is like a fire. Like, they just tell other people about you, because there's not a day that business owners aren't talking to other business people.
So
I felt like I was in a bubble. That's what I was saying. I was literally in a bubble during this whole crisis. Did not know anything about it. And we came out and I'm like, oh, wow, we did all. That's amazing.
No, it's incredible.
So
why did you want to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a story where I usually share with people that I did have real jobs. And I just felt like a lot of times when you're a creative person, when you have a lot of ideas, you always want to make things better. And then, you're often put in a box. And for all the right reasons, we're entrepreneurs. We give somebody a role, we give them a job description and say, hey, this is your job. Now they're like, I want to do sales. We're like, no, you can't do sales. You're in marketing. Or you're like, no, I want to do support. No, you can't. Oh, I want to develop software. You can't do that either. So I felt like I had all these skills and all this energy, bubbles of ideas kept coming up. I'm like, this is not going anywhere if I don't actually put this to use. So I've always been more of a doer, I'm just able to manage so much easier. You could throw all the fires at me and I can handle it. You know what I'm saying? Like people want less tasks. I'm like, throw it at me. I don't have a 9 to 5. You just let me see if I can be of value in this organization. So I moved out, if that makes sense. And I was like, I could do this way more efficient and I didn't have to tell a boss what I'm doing or when I'm going to be done. I just think that some people are either meant to be an employee, which is absolutely a fact.
Yeah.
You shouldn't try to do entrepreneur, of any kind. You just can't handle the stress. You want a piece of, right? Like you want this peaceful all the time, please, job is for you. And some people should not be working because you're always unhappy, right? You're always fighting with your boss, or you're just not meant to be in a cubicle. Like just own it and start building whatever it is, side hustle, businesses, grow it to 10 million, 5 million, whatever it is that you think you can do. I just think there's two types of people. And I just was not meant to be, I didn't feel like this is the best, right? This is the best of me, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. What's the biggest challenge that you faced with Clickx growing that as a business?
Yeah, I think, like I said, so when we started, we were a service business, service in the sense that we were doing a lot of the things. And at OneIMS, one of the biggest challenges we came across was we couldn't scale it as fast as we'd like to because we lacked systems. And we were looking at, people know Basecamp and all these project management tools and task management and client communication. And obviously, when we're dealing with digital marketing, we have loads and loads of data, like call tracking data, PPC data, Google competitor data, all this information building. There's no dashboard. There's no technology that was available in 2006, 7, 8, whatever year it is. So we decided as a tiny little business in a suburb of Chicago to be a software company, as crazy as that could possibly be. Never done it before, no fundraising, right? We only have so many clients. And we took all that money and we reinvested into a software for ourselves. It was called Clickx because we just didn't want to mix everything up so that customers had no idea. So at that time, we were very much small business focused. And we took a lot of basically the problems that we were facing. Hey, want to give a dashboard, measurement tools. And it really, in the back end, it was enabling us to add clients at a much more rapid rate than paper and pencil or any tool at the time. Like we could do an audit, give a proposal, and onboard client in like literally one day, if that makes sense. And to this day, that is the sort of the infrastructure that allows us to do what we do today. So I think the biggest challenge is that I am not that typical entrepreneur who went and raised money and hired a bunch of genius entrepreneurs or developers and the CTO and all of that. I did obviously go to 1871, which is one of the largest sort of co-working and incubators in Chicago. And I mentor business owners there. These guys are trying to raise money. I'm like, dude, I never had to raise money, but I'll show you what you need to do to have a successful
So Solomon, why did you never raise money? Being a tech company, being a software company, what drove you to the bootstrap mentality rather than bringing in large investment?
That's a great question. A lot of people ask me that. The reason I say that is all the businesses that I worked in that raised money, the CEO was always like a slave to the people that gave you money. And whether they give you $1 million, they give you $1.5 million, they literally called you anytime. And guess what happens to the team? We're under pressure to produce some sort of report because we have to show growth, and we're just like pulling growth out of nowhere. I was like, hey, I need the freedom to build whatever it is that we think our customers would need, and our customers are our investors. They're investing with us. We take their money. It's a good stewardship, and then show them, here's what we can do for you. And over time, we're investing into an infrastructure that allows us to scale, which is like the name of our products and systems and our programs and everything. It allows us to scale, but we never had to take a dollar from the outside. That means we never had to prove to anybody anything, right? Like we just didn't think that needed to be the amount of pressure that my partners, my brother, and I need to go through to be successful. And quite frankly, we're an example of anybody who might be looking to create a business and you didn't have funding. Go sell, take that and invest into your business. This means that you may not take a salary, but that's okay. Like, it's the same thing, whether you borrow money and you take yourself a salary or you didn't, but we were willing to sacrifice to build something we felt like we were called to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes incredible sense. Financial
It's not
management.
for everybody though, Mark.
No,
I don't think it's
know.
for everybody.
And the businesses I run, I've never taken investment, and me and my business partner don't intend to. We are in that mindset of growing.
Yeah.
And when we grow, we reinvest back into the company and then build up the
Yep.
business that way. So I get that. How quickly did you employ salespeople? Because sales is obviously the lifeblood of a business.
Yeah.
Did you initially do the sales, or were you quick to bring salespeople in?
No, it's a great question. So my brother and I, the reason why I had to get my brother into the business is that I was doing everything by myself. I was literally the producer, and I'm always been the back end, the doing of the campaign creation, launching, whatever you want to call it, web development. I did everything. And when I was struggling, basically, like I just couldn't manage it. My brother at the time had a corporate job. I said, Sam, do you want to do that or do you want to do this? And obviously, I don't know a lot of people that are super happy with corporate jobs. And he was, yeah, whatever, it pays me really well. I'm talking about Fortune 10 company, right? This is Coca-Cola. He had really good job. I was like, quit that job, dude. Do this with me. Obviously, that at the time did not sound like a great idea, but he did it. And he was really good at a lot of the things that I was bad at, like bookkeeping and things of that nature. He was really good, super detail oriented. And to this day, he's our partner. He does a lot of front end sales, and I just did all the back end work. And we certainly did hire, but that was my first hire, if that makes sense.
Right.
He became it, and then he ran with it to this day. And later on, we had to bring on more salespeople. But the good thing is that in our industry, what we're selling is essentially it's a retainer. So our customers, we can't bring on 10,000 clients in a month, right? Like, we're not trying to be like that, because we're not truly like that SaaS side of business. We have to do fulfillment. So we don't need 70 salespeople or 100 salespeople. We just need enough salespeople to meet the growth of our business. Like, it's more of a quality over quantity kind of a business.
Right.
We want clients that are paying more and less of them, more quality, if that makes sense. So we need higher quality talent to be our salespeople. We certainly did have salespeople before, like the 6 or 7 months into it. We hired not so great salespeople, but we had salespeople. Like, we just hired people. We posted a job and like we started hiring people, but little do we know about sales and scaling and all that at the time. But to answer your question, we did not hold back on hiring people, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's appointment setting, whatever it is that we felt like we needed, we were just unstoppable.
How do you keep your clients? Because obviously retaining clients and maybe cross-selling them other services that you provide is almost better than bringing in new clients. How do you keep your clients and cross-sell them?
You hit the nail on the head on that one, because we do believe that exact same thing. So we don't need all these salespeople, right? If you have salespeople that are not producing, they're actually going to be expenses. And you don't want salespeople that are not producing because you don't have capacity, right? That's another problem. So we have a formula that we actually implement for all of our clients. It's actually called the growth formula, which is acquisition plus retention equals growth, which most businesses are all focused on acquisition. They rarely talk about the R word, the retention word. So we believe in having a really good both, like you have to work on both. So literally our business to our customers is helping them acquire clients and retain the people that they actually already closed, so that they don't get prospected by their competitor and all of a sudden you're now replacing your revenue to just get to where you were last month or last year or whatever it is. And so we put a huge emphasis on retention. And the way that we do that is by building a partnership with our customers and letting them know that this is not like a short-term thing. If you're looking for some quick fix to your business growth problem, I'm not it, because guess what? It's not going to work. If you're truly looking to grow, which is right, the growth formula, the acquisition plus retention, that's the entire business that you're in. So our customers end up being 5 and 10 year long clients rather than 6 months or whatever it is. And we do that by showing them exactly what they could become if they stuck with the program long term, rather than jumping and doing things. And at the end of the day, Mark, to be honest, That's really what business growth is all about. And this show is all about, is how do you grow it? And you got to retain the client customers and have an engine that's constantly bringing in new leads and new blood into your business, to your salespeople, booked appointments, and they're able to close. So it's a really good handle or balance of both, if that makes sense.
It does, 100%. And we subscribe to that 100%. We want to keep clients for as long as possible, renew every year, because we have a renewal service on our podcast booking agency. And the aim is that they stay with us 2-3 years. And we've had clients right from the start that have always renewed. And we work very hard on that. And what we've also found is, and maybe you're experiencing the same things, is if maybe they do want to end the contract, they're also, if they've had a great experience, they say, oh, my friend Jim, who runs this marketing business, he would be great working with you as well. So referrals is obviously another way that, what's your view on referrals?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I think it's the thing that most people don't really take it seriously. Because it's not predictable. That's what I say. Referrals are not predictable. So you can't really put it on your Q4. Hey, I'm going to have 75 referrals this quarter. You don't know. So what we usually do is we build referrals into a system of some sort. So after you're done servicing the client, you would ask, this is part of your sales script. This is part of your fulfillment people's script. Hey, do you know anybody else that might benefit from what we're doing? Or who do you rather? Does that make sense? That I can have a conversation with. Maybe it's a fit, maybe it's not a fit, but I love talking about this stuff. Mary, do you know anyone that you think you can connect with us? That's happening. And also it happens organically as well. There's not a day or a week rather that I wouldn't get an email from someone like you that says, hey, I would like you to meet Jim. I think you guys be a great, does that make sense? Like you pay forward. I'm probably going to connect you with some people and you're going to be like, wow, because at that moment that this is a relationship game. And it's not so much, what can I get? That just doesn't work, right? Like the universe knows that it doesn't work. And I think the more you pay forward and you take care of the people, if you ever meet somebody at a networking event, the best thing you could do is not become their client. If they do what you need, then yes. But I like you to connect them with 2 or 3 of my friends and say, hey, look, I met this guy. He has this super cool, whatever it is. I think you guys should connect. And what I just did is I've connected them into my network. And although we were networking event thinking we're going to get some sales, it never comes from the person you meet. That's the number one thing is how can I be of assistance to somebody else? And I try to do that as much as I can, of course.
Business relationships are so important, and nurturing those relationships and being able to help other people. I'm not necessarily in the woohoo that it's all going to come back to you, but I just think as a good practice, you should be trying to help other, because there's win scenarios, and that's really what we're looking for. It took me a long time to realize that it's not like sport, a win-lose scenario. You can have win scenarios, and that's really, as a business owner, entrepreneur, that's really what you should be looking for, isn't it?
And we actually added one more win to that because we do partnerships. So there's us and the client that we're working with and their clients. It's got to be win for all 3. Because most of the time, so for instance, if I'm doing something with you, Mark, we're going to add a capability that's podcasting. So we're going to say, hey, we can help you completely do end-to-end podcast production. They're like, oh, awesome, cool. How much is it? Whatever it is, $5,000. So they're like, okay, sign us up. And they might come to us and then we give you that project. So you have to win, we have to win, and they have to win. And if one of them is not winning, then it's not a good, a good deal. So it's really crucial, like when we do partnerships and things like that. So how do we make sure everybody's winning? And it is possible, like you said. We don't want anybody feeling like they got a short end of the stick.
What's your biggest revenue service and what's your biggest profitable service?
So it really depends on the business that we're talking about. For instance, on Clickx side, we have a software. So we built a software that helps mostly consultants, agencies, coaches get new clients. And that has a subscription, of course. And we've been raising our prices because we were adding new capabilities to our platform. And obviously, like we have to make sure with the inflated world that we live in that we can pay our bills and some. That tends to be the number one source of our business. And on the service side of things, typically clients are hiring us to be like a fractional marketing consultant or CMO of some sort. And because of the high caliber of the people that we have to employ, we have to put a premium on it because, like I said, if you're going to hire a CMO, it's well into the 6 figures to have a really good CMO work for you. And because we have so many resources here as a service business, as a professional services business, we can actually leverage our talent, combine it together, and offer that for way less than what they would pay a salary. Like they're winning, we're winning, our team's winning. That tends to be the number one product. Obviously, it's huge on strategy, Mark, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, we're helping businesses. If we can just move the needle 5%, they're talking millions of dollars in growth. So like they will pay you a couple $1,000 to move the needle just a little bit, right? Like they have no problem. In fact, business owners, if you talk to entrepreneurs, especially in growth stage that you're talking about, everything that they care about is what is going to move the needle. That's it. What's working, what's not. So our team is really good at figuring out what's working in their marketing and what they need to invest more in. Do they do more paid ads? Do they make more podcast interviews or whatever it is that they do? Do they do more digital PR? Do they do more trade shows? Even in a world where we think there's no trade shows, like our customers, we have customers do trade shows, like anything that is actually driving it. And how do we know that? We put measurements in place through the entire sales funnel. From a cold prospect going into their CRM system to close deals and the size of deals, the industry that they're in. So because we're looking at that, we're able to tell things that they themselves can't even see. Do you see what I'm saying? Because they're busy in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a strategic thing. They're putting out fires or doing their day-to-day meetings and whatever else. Our team is looking at the numbers to say, hey, here's an opportunity for you that I think is there's not even a competition for you in this particular whatever it is. You have a competition-free zone. Would you like to take advantage of it? Who's going to say no?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to OneIMS. So why don't you tell me about this business?
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about. OneIMS today is still a highly strategic consulting sort of business. We do the work for you, meaning we are an extension of your marketing team. So most of our clients have maybe one person or two people, 3 people in their marketing, but they cannot do paid ads. They cannot do organic. They can't do web dev. They can't do ebook generation or top of funnel or anything like that. At best, they might be able to write some content because they are somewhat subject matter expert in their field, but they're like, hey, we need a lot more help than what our team is capable of doing. So we take on that workload on their behalf and we execute the campaign. That's right. Paid ads, search, social, organic. And then we're doing the entire measurement, which is like their CRM system, their sales seats, how many people, they're doing cold email, we're implementing that for them. If they're doing prospecting or if they're doing inbound, which is anything to do with inbound content creation. So that is a very basically laborious service-based business. That's what we do at OneIMS, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And so now we've covered Clickx and OneIMS. What's your day-to-day activities? Let's just say yesterday. What did you do yesterday?
Yesterday, I was on a podcast just like this. I did, so fortunately, I'm really blessed, Mark, to be able to have the time to do things like this. So being on podcasts, being a guest like here, and appreciate you having me. And I think our audience is going to get a lot of value out of today. And also, we have a coaching business in Clickx where we're coaching our entrepreneurs that are in our program. And Mondays, as the program's called Scale, and yesterday was Monday. It's S for selling. Every day is a different letter.
Right.
And so I listened to it. I didn't have to contribute. We have a sales trainer who's been there for 23 years, Patrick Geary. Like he did his thing and I showed up there after that. And I do one-on-one calls with some of the customers that we have. But that was my entire day. And I had a sales call at 5 o'clock. So 2-3 calls and either I'm creating content or I'm on a guest like something like this. And that's it. The real business happens by the people that we have. So if you can imagine, that's what an entrepreneur needs to work towards, where the business does not depend on you pushing the buttons. And this is a concept that I'm coaching and training every single day. But like I said, I get to live it. And I'm really lucky and blessed to be able to have a team that can run about 90% of everything that has to happen in the business. So that's what my day was. It was so hard, wasn't it? It was really stressful.
No, it's an amazing day. Talking on podcasting, coaching. It's what a lot of people aspire to when they're starting business. And what we find, unfortunately, is that in many cases, the entrepreneur is often the bottleneck for growth, for future growth. And they need to be challenged that they need to step aside, think strategically, think high level on where you want your business to go, but let other people, let managers manage people, and let the employees do the work that you need to do, and you just have an oversight of it. Is what I talk to entrepreneurs, and that is often the biggest slowness of their growth of their business, is that they think they're the best people positioned to be able to run the business, to be in the business.
Oh, yes.
How do you deal with that with coaches when you're coaching someone and they're like, but I'm the only person that knows everything about my business? How do you say to them, you need to get out of the way?
Yeah, this is now you're like, that's my day to day. So I think the first thing is you need to have a team. If you don't have a team, you don't have a business. That's number one. So if you want to be that solopreneur, there's nothing wrong with that. But I contribute, like, to the way that I define my team is the reason we have any profit, because they're the ones doing the work. Like, I don't do the work. And so first thing is you need to have another person, even if that's a virtual assistant. Now you, like, somebody in the Philippines, wherever you find them, right? Now you have a business because you have one more person in your business that can do things for the business that can then drive some results. And what you've done is you handed a lot of the things that you were wasting time on, quite frankly, because those are not the best use of your time. You now get to do higher revenue producing things while they're doing the things that we actually don't enjoy doing, like emailing people or whatever that might be, right? Like just simple stuff. And now you have one virtual assistant, and you might hire a salesperson next. Now you have a business, like, okay, salesperson does this and the virtual assistant does whatever. And you might have some outsourcing. You're not doing any work, you're outsourcing the work. Like little by little, even though you're the best at it, like you need to not do it, because if you're actually doing things that you don't enjoy, your business is not going to grow. You're not going to feel fulfilled. You're going to be drained. You're going to overwork, right? Like all these other bad things starts to happen when you take on all of this stress and put it on your head, if that makes sense. Yeah. So
what do you, in your businesses, what do you track and what do you measure to show growth?
Yeah, so I think for us, sales is a byproduct of how well your marketing is working. If I want to get a really good Q1, we're at Q4 for next year. If I want to get really good Q1, I got to work right now, because my Q1 is very much dedicated on what I'm going to be planning and executing, what webinars or what events or whatever it is that we need to do. And we're talking B2B companies, right? So these businesses have to do campaigns right now or get ready so that they can launch it on January and be able to book a bunch of appointments for their salespeople to do that. So we track much more on top of funnel than we do on the bottom of funnel, because like I said, bottom of funnel, if I want to close a sale on Monday, I'm not going to go prospect on Monday and be like, does anybody want to buy my thing? Nobody wants to buy your thing, right? Like this is not going to happen. So if you want somebody to buy your thing, you need to be working way up the funnel. And I even walk around with funnels in our office, believe it or not, to make my illustration. But long story short, we got to be working way up the funnel to be able to have a really successful quarter, month, whatever it is that you measure. So we're measuring visits and top of funnel leads, and those leads to becoming an appointment, if that's the kind of sales funnel people run. And then we're also looking at whether or not that appointment turned into an opportunity. And opportunity means that now is somebody's going to give a proposal of some sort, and they either accept or they don't. So we're tracking that, because those indicators are going to give me the actual result that we're looking for in the business. There's for me and the clients. What's that?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, how do you keep your talent? How do you keep your best employees?
Yeah, I know. That's a question that we got to ask ourselves every single day, because every single person, they have like I call it a superpower, right? Everybody's good at something. Really, you're good at this. So it's our job as entrepreneurs to find out what is it that my employee really wants to do in their life, like what fulfills them. And we just have to keep moving them around until they really feel comfortable with the thing that they do. And I think it really comes down to coaching them and really figuring out, do they enjoy what it is, or are they good at what they do, or do they want to do something completely different? And we have to make roles when roles don't exist, because we really want to retain the talent. But I think it's, if you put them in a box again, in a world like today, they're just not going to be enjoying it. If they don't enjoy it, they're going to leave. But not that they're going to get the next job and they're going to stay. It's just that they're going to keep looking until they find the thing. You and I are better off finding the thing here so they can stay and flourish, rather than just going from job to job. And I look at resumes every day, and I always look at how long have they been staying in this job. And if it's 8 months, 12 months, I'm always wondering, like, why? I blame the company or whatever, because they couldn't figure out what this person really is good at. Shame on them. We live in these little job restriction, right? Like
Yeah.
zones. Like, do this. If you're a call center person and you don't enjoy it, you got to find something else. Because, like I said, you're going to be stuck behind the call center job. And it is the company's job. It's the manager's job to say, hey, Sally is really good at talking to people. Let's find her another job that I think she will flourish in. And that you just help retain that person.
Yeah. And getting the right people in the wrong seats, wrong positions could kill a business.
100%. And if you have one unhappy employee, then you have a lot of unhappy employees. Yeah. So that's another episode, but you're right. Yeah. We just touched like the very, very small pieces. And when a business is not looking into every person and their talent and their unique ability, you're going to run into, like you said, like unhappiness, or they're not feeling fulfilled. They're looking, or there's not a day that people aren't getting prospected, right? Like the HR world is the same as the sales world, right? They're being prospected. Like, hey, you want this? And of course, the green is always green on the other side. So like people are going to switch a ship. It's because I think like we have to really figure out, can we make this home for them? And if we can't, then you coach them out. That's what I call it. If you can, you coach them up. Yeah. It's one or the other.
Do you have an exit plan? Do you have a plan of if you would sell?
Yeah, again, it's a partnership. So it's not just me having the plan. I think we'd love to at some point, but we feel like we're having a lot of fun. And if I didn't do this, that's the other thing. What am I going to do all day? But so at Clickx, we actually help people start agencies and scale them. And so one of the things that we are actually naturally going to be doing is helping them sell their agency that they built and scaled. So we cover all three grounds there, but we personally haven't done any exits yet. But like I said, all of the new ventures that I'm going to go into is mostly going to be things that I want to exit, not necessarily to keep.
So these clients that you're coaching and you're building businesses, growing businesses, coaching them, and do you ever invest in them?
Not necessarily, but we would love to. But some of these, like I said, we never built a fund to then go invest and do that. And I think that's a really different business model. Typically what we're doing is we're going to show them the way that they couldn't be looking. So you mentioned the 10X, the framework. So it's actually called 10X Grow, GRO. It's called growth rate optimization. And if you look at everything that we've done over time, and whether it's a B2B environment or small business, there was a few levers that we had to pull to grow the business. And whether it was marketing, front end, sales, lead gen, whatever it is, we just had to optimize their growth rate in the sense that traffic growth rate, lead growth rate, meetings growth rate, the size of the deals growth rate. Does that make sense? Opportunity. And we just had to keep tweaking GRO, right? Just like we say CRO for conversion rate optimization, why can't we have a GRO for the entire business growth rate? And so when we're doing that, it's like very different than throw money at it. And now we're investors, and right now we got to have board meetings. We don't want to have meetings. We hate meetings. So if we can just figure out what is holding them back, like we always do as consultants, we optimize that. And most of the time, when you're in it, you can't see it. That's literally the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I'm in it, then if I invest, technically I'm in it, and I probably can't see what they're going to try to do. So we try to take an unemotional sort of approach and say, if I'm not emotionally attached to your business, if I can look at it from the outside, because Mark, you're in it every day, you're just doing it, and you're not going to see it because you're busy doing the thing, right? Whatever it is that you do every hour. But if I was looking at it from like a CPA's perspective, we look at the balance sheet, or we look at the income statement, whatever it is, you can just see some obvious red flags or opportunities rather. And then we say, well, why don't you invest into this thing? Why don't you do this? And so they're like having an aha moment that they would have never seen, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. The first one is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Yeah, I would say is investing in yourself. Being an entrepreneur is one thing, but if you don't invest in yourself, you're never going to grow. So I have an insatiable thirst to be coached rather than me just coaching. I think we have to be constantly filling up ourselves to be able to give out. So I'm a huge self-development junkie. Personal development is really important to me. And so I'm in like 5 programs all the time.
What's the last conference or sort of event that you've been to?
I was in the last event that I was in Toronto on the 18th of October for Strategic Coach. It's a workshop by Dan Sullivan, if you know who that is. So basically it's going from the next one I'm going to is in not this week, next week in Brighton SEO, which is basically a UK-based SEO conference that's coming to San Diego. That's next Thursday and Friday. And then it's the next one.
Yeah.
So you really have to stay abreast of the industry, entrepreneurship, and the industry that you're in. And I think, again, I have the freedom to go and to enjoy all this because, like I said, we're able to run our business on Slack. As easy as that sounds.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Yeah, take risk. I would say I wish I took more risk when I was younger. If you're younger and you're growing $1 million, $10 million, whatever dollar business you're growing, you have to take risk. And the biggest thing that holds us back is fear, this 4-letter F word. And you got to build the courage to be able to take risk. So if I can maybe help an entrepreneur that's listening today, do I do this? Do I add this capability? Do I not add this capability? Do I hire this expensive person that I don't know if they're going to work out? Dude, take risks because you wouldn't know until you've done it. And we as entrepreneurs, we don't like lose. It's either you win or you learn, right? So you learn. Yeah, nothing to lose.
Absolutely. Who's helped you most in your career?
Authors, people that wrote books, like everything, like I was reading Zig Ziglar just like last week, and I was telling all my people to go buy Zig Ziglar's Secrets of Closing the Sale, or like I said, Dan Sullivan wrote a couple of books with Benjamin Hardy, which is really good. 10x is easier than 2x, or Who Not How. I'm constantly buying books. When you go to a conference, you watch a video, the guy's, I read this book. I'm like instantly buying on Audible because if I write it down, I'm going to forget. There's a test, I think it's called Kolbe. I don't know if you know what a Kolbe assessment is. People should take that assessment. It's called Kolbe. There's a lady by the name Kathy Kolbe who made this assessment, Kolby, and it'll really tell you more about you. And I have the assessment tells me that I have the thing that makes you do things fast. As soon as you hear it, you do it. So I'm like constantly realizing that's what I do. I just listen to something, I do it right away. I take action. So there was a conference for Nashville in 2024 in May. I didn't buy the conference ticket, but I already bought my hotel and my ticket to fly there.
Right.
And most people buy the conference ticket and look for flights later. I'm like, yeah, I got to make sure I get the flights and the hotel. That conference ticket's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm like, fast action. And I think I was the first attendee in this place that I already paid for everything. It's because I know myself from this Kolbe assessment. Like I am like a 7 out of 10 on this quick action, whatever that is. Yeah.
No, I get that. And what I love about that is that when you're reading, listening to podcasts, whatever the way that you learn, it's really important that people just don't read for reading's sake. They actually think about what they've read and either do something that they've taken from that book, because you just get to analysis paralysis if you just keep on reading and don't do anything with it. I implore all of my listeners that it is actually a really valuable skill to actually consume that data, YouTube, podcast, books, whatever it is, but then being able to then relate it to your business or your life or your family, whatever you're reading about and what you're doing. You've got to be able to action it. And it sounds like you are an action an action taker.
And even if it doesn't work out, you learn, but you got to be quick, as fast as you can possibly move.
Amazing. Tell me about a regret that you have.
I would say going back to wish we'd done more risk taking, more capabilities, hiring more people maybe, right? Because you're in a partnership, this is something for those that have partnerships. You always got to get your partners involved in to do everything. It's like a marriage. And this is where partnership work, because you get to do things that they're bad. I'm bad at certain things and my partner might be really good at it. But when it comes to taking risks or doing new things, if people aren't on the same page, like I'm fine. Like I'm like, let's just continue. If you're happy, let's go. But there's opportunities where I've heard partnerships like it doesn't work because they're not on the same page. They're not seeing the same thing. They don't see the same vision. So like I said, I'm a very high risk taker. And my partner's, which is why we're opposite, and it works. He's very calculated and he's very much methodical and he's very, let's safety first. So that's, I would
But
say,
as
like I
entrepreneurs,
said,
though, Solomon, as entrepreneurs, you have to take risks. That's the whole
right,
premise of starting and running a business, is that you're
right,
taking a risk that you're going to be successful, rather than having a stable employee salary coming in. I think obviously some people are more risk averse than others, but the actual premise of starting a business is a hugely risky exercise, isn't it?
yep, yeah, it is. And like I said, if you can take more risk, whether 9 out of 10 times things will work itself out, but people are just sitting, again, it's fear. That's what holds people back. They don't want to do it because they're afraid that they're going to lose the whole ship.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is it's not. And I think it's you thinking that way, right? And I read this quote from somebody: never take counsel from fear, or counsel of fear, or something like that. I'm like, most people take counsel from the fear, or whatever the fear emotion that God gave us, but is, you don't want that counsel. It's not going to get you anywhere.
And equally, negativity. I have to taper my consumption of news articles and things like that, because I find it so negative and so disruptive of my entrepreneurial creativity. So I very much, in the morning, I'll read the paper online, and then I don't really look at it for the rest of the day. I know what's going on in the world, so that's useful. That's an advantage, but I'm not constantly looking at every couple of hours. It wastes time, because you're just constantly looking at a thing that you looked at 2 hours ago, which nothing has changed. Or equally, the way that news is presented is that they are targeting things that have gone wrong. A war,
that is correct.
an example, or the current example, what people are obsessed about, and actually, in a lot of ways, it does affect our lives. But in a business sense, we've got to look for opportunities for growth, for being able to develop our people, develop ourselves, and that doesn't come from reading the newspapers.
Yeah, no, I try to go as many days as I can without reading the news. And if I do read the news, I read Barron's, which is a financial news. So I'm like pretty much zoned out all the junk.
Yeah. What are you most proud of?
I think the team that we built over the years, and we're just like I said, they really are the business. I like to say I did anything, but I didn't do much. And I've been like this for a long time, meaning I'd like to find somebody when we have to add a capability or add a resource of some sort. The first thing we do is we go find that person. It's always the who, not how, which is a quote from Dan Sullivan, but it's always been like that even before I read the book. It's like, how do we get somebody to be able to do that? So we do a lot of things in media, and we have an amazing media department. It's because, like I said, I'm not good at any of this stuff, but some people, this is their zone. This is their thing, right? Yeah. So I can't ever be that. And so I want to make sure that we find the right people, put them in the right place. And I think that, like I said, we've been able to do that time and time again. And believe it or not, like, these people have jumped between companies that we have, and it just amazes me how I have the same developers that I started coding the app in whatever year that was to this day, which is amazing, because it's so hard to keep developers and designers and stuff like that.
Amazing. What does legacy mean to you?
Yeah, this is why I'm on this podcast, because when I'm dead someday, right? What did Solomon do? So I wrote a little tiny book for basically aspiring entrepreneurs called 0 to 10K Scale, helping people get to $10,000. All of these things that I do is technically is impact driven more so than profit driven, believe it or not. And I think the only thing that you'll ever get happy, fulfillment, joy is what you do for others, as opposed to what you do for yourself, like another car, or I'm in Florida, so another boat. I don't have a boat, but it's only going to make you so happy. No one's happy because they have a boat. I think they're happy if you get your friends on a boat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we are looking at that and saying, what can we do? And I want to do more things for small businesses, more so than those successful, those 1% or 5% of the companies that are successful. And it is going to be more on that 2024 and so on.
Amazing.
Is how do we give them tools that cost very little, they can implement and grow, so we can impact way more people.
And lastly, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you and find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I put out a lot of content. So I'm on social media, but my website is timothy.com. My last name is spelled THIMOTHY. So just find me on there, and I have links to everything, including, like I said, free resources. We're constantly in giving mode. and you won't have to buy anything from our website.
Amazing.
That's the goal, right? Like, how can we serve as many people as possible? And that's literally, if every entrepreneur just say that, how do we add value? We're all going to be successful. We're all going to be making $10 and $20 million.
Yeah, amazing. Look, Solomon, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've learned, I've experienced, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Pleasure. Hey everyone. So that was Solomon Thimothy. If you could think of anyone that is more honed, more primed for entrepreneurship, I don't think there is another person out there. Solomon is so much what I envisage as an entrepreneur. Runs multiple businesses, has realized that he's got to get out of the business to let his employees be able to do the business, cares for his employees, is a self-development junkie, does all these conferences, does coaching. He's actually built sort of his success coaching services as well. It just, as I say, it's what I would envisage a entrepreneur to be. Now, some of us are better at other things than better at some things than other things, and that's fine. We're all good at some things, but equally, Solomon was aware of the bits that he wasn't very good at, and brought his brother in as a partner to be able to do that and have that beautiful marriage to be able to have successful businesses. I really think his business in marketing, so 06, 07, 08, marketing was established, but maybe not so much in software. So I think he was ahead of the game there. I love the fact that he is thinking about how to measure things and being able to make sure that the growth and actually forecasting as well. We didn't get into forecasting, but it sounds like he's planning for most of next year and being able to think about that rather than think about, what do I do with this client? How do I deal with this client? He's now looking to grow that business substantially and actually have his employees do the work. Brilliant. He got the support that he needs on the things that he's not so good at. And it was interesting when he was saying about that he brought salespeople in, but he, in his business as a B2B business, he doesn't need volume. He needs quality leads that he can convert into sales and then be able to retain them and renew them on, which is something that we try and do a lot, is trying to nurture those relationships. So when the next term comes on, you're then got in a really strong position. You've given them value and they would want to renew as well. So all these things that I know is if there was an entrepreneurial book, would probably fit a lot of what Solomon's talked about today. So maybe you should think about writing a book or another book. I think he said he has written one. So that was fascinating. Absolutely loved it. I think he is a great guy who just wants to give now, wants to be able to help people grow their businesses. And he says he's targeting more smaller businesses with huge potential growth rather than necessarily more established businesses on the other end of the scale. And I would deploy you to go and look at his website, look at the companies Clickx and OneIMS. If there's anyone out there that needs that sort of support, I think Solomon would be absolutely fantastic about how to grow a business and help you do that. So I would implore you to go out and reach out to him. If you see that he could add value, go to the website first of all, do some reading, see what else that they do. But yeah, really great conversation. As I say, like, the definition of entrepreneur is actually Solomon. Hopefully you've enjoyed that content. Hopefully you've enjoyed the interview. And looking forward to the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Business Growth Talks. This podcast is released every Monday, so don't miss an episode by subscribing to all podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. Have a great day.